A reading from the letter of Paul to the Romans. Brothers and sisters, we know that all things work for good for those who love God, who are called according to his purpose. For those he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, so that he might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. And those he predestined, he also called. And those he called, he also justified. And those he justified, he also glorified. The word of the Lord.
Our second reading for this Sunday comes from the letter of St. Paul to the Romans. Here we hear a confirmation of what we have been developing in our reflection on the first reading. We said that the king, Solomon, the king of Israel, was very clear about his vocation in life, and that determined his priorities and what he asked God to give him. He asked for the gift of wisdom that could serve him well as the king appointed by God over his people. Now, St. Paul reminds us that we have been called by God. Each one has a calling that we have to discern. And by calling, we mean God did not merely create us. Embedded in our being created by God is also a purpose. God never creates something or someone without a purpose for that thing or for that person. And according to St. Paul, that is already our vocation. Right at the time that God, in his eternal plan, conceived us, in his eternal plan, each one of us was already conceived in the eternal plan of God for a purpose, with a calling. That's why you hear from the prophets of old, from your mother's womb, I have already called you. Okay? So this is what St. Paul refers to as foreknowledge of God. The foreknowledge of God. The other term used here is predestination. Now, this is not to be interpreted in a negative sense, where human freedom is already curtailed. No. When St. Paul talks about God's foreknowledge of us, God's predestination of us, St. Paul is merely affirming what is part of Jewish spirituality, that we have been created by God for a purpose. Our role is to discover that purpose that God has already embedded in our person. And if we fulfill our calling, God loves us. That is an added reason for God to love us. And those whom God loves, God justifies. God makes just in the midst of our sinfulness. If you are true to your calling, you are being just to God. And God will justify you all the more. Because you are being fair to God, God will grant you the greatest of justice, which is the forgiveness of sins. We who, because of our sinfulness, have become unjust in the eyes of God, if we are true to our calling, we are treading the path of justice, of justification. And not only that, God will glorify us. Wow! From beginning to end, we have been called by God from all eternity in His plan to fulfill a mission. And the fulfillment of that mission, supported by God's grace, by God's love, by God's justifying action, will lead to our glorification. My dear brothers and sisters, especially the young who are watching us and listening to us, please do not waste your life. Do not waste your time. Do not waste your talents. God has a purpose for creating you. And you will experience the fullness of life, what we call glorification, in the fulfillment of God's purpose for you. All the other things that may give you some sort of a high feeling, like being able to eat your favorite food, or being able to watch your favorite movie, or being able to chat on the internet with some friends, that gives you a momentary joy. But the glory that we are really looking for is in the fulfillment of our persons, the fulfillment of our lives, the fulfillment of our calling from God. Discover your calling. Live by that calling. And let that calling determine your priorities in life.